things go downhill very quickly from here. And I think that the Sons of Liberty, they've been going through this kind of pattern of behavior where this piece of legislation is passed that they feel is unjust because they don't have an opportunity to vote on it. They protest, they riot, what have you. And while it doesn't look good for the people of Boston and the other major ports that this protest happened, Parliament acquiesces, repeals the legislation, and then just replaces it with something else. And it's kind of this cycle that we've been going through for the past 8-ish years. And I think that the Sons of Liberty probably assumed something very similar would happen with destroying the tea. Even though we wanted to solve this crisis peacefully, even though throwing the tea into Boston Harbor is not plan A, or plan B for that matter, exactly, that if this was a pointed political protest, if we only destroyed the tea and nothing else, then maybe Parliament would just repeal the Tea Act. It's different this time because in destroying the tea, we have also destroyed government property, which is not something that we've done before. So the Tea Act is not just repealed. Boston is severely punished because of the destruction of the tea. And it's because of that punishment that tensions continue to grow and the American Revolution starts in Massachusetts.
Yep.
I think it's no surprise that it starts in Massachusetts because of the destruction of the tea.
Speaking with us today, an impassioned patriot, the leader of the Sons of Liberty, and a friend to us all, Mr. Samuel Adams!
We are here to discuss yet another crisis, forced on us by false counselors, the King George III. I know, my friends. Out there in Boston Harbor are those three merchant vessels, the North, the Eleanor, and the Beaver. Their holds filled to bursting with 340 chests of that detested East India Company tea. Discuss. The law of the Navigation Act states that each of these vessels has 20 days to unload its cargo and pay the due taxes. Tomorrow is the 20th and final day before the darkening. That makes our meeting tonight, this body of the people, all the more important. It is our final chance to effect these events in our favor. Earlier this day, we requested that mansion's owner, Francis Roche, obtain a pass from our esteemed royal governor, Thomas Hutchinson. Only that traitor to his country can return those ships to England without unloading any of that tea. We cling to this hope and wait Mr. Roche's return. For if that cargo is landed, each and every one of us will be forced to pay this tax on tea. Lest we forget, 5 innocent Bostonians massacred on King Street in March of 1770. Gunned down by the soldiers sent here to occupy our streets. Many of the women supported those acted by refusing to purchase these goods for their homes.
Yes.
And in 3 years' time, we forced many of these taxes to disappear. All but one. One tax that remains, the tax that brings us here tonight, the tax on our tea. And our Massachusetts charter gives us the right to elect our local officials and to tax ourselves. If they expect us to pay British taxes, to fight and die in British wars, we deserve British representation in the If they think they can strip us of our legal right to representation from over 3,000 miles away, then we must respond in kind with those mortal words of daily notice. They echo from State House Square and ring through these colonies like a trumpet from heaven. Taxation without representation is tyranny, and the time for petition and compromise is over. The time has come.
Mr. Adams! Mr. Adams! I'm sorry, everyone. Mr. Rich has returned. The governor's heard.
My friends, let's see what he has to say at last. Well, it seems the governor is willing to grant anything consistent with the laws and his duty to the king, but orders that the vessels cannot leave unless the cargo is unloaded as the law demands. What say you to this? There you have it. The governor has refused to send that tea back to England, just as he has refused every petition and every attempt at a peaceful resolution. I say we end this crisis here, now.
Yes.
Right. Put forth the suggestion. What should we do with the king's tea?
I think salt water and tea shall mix tonight. What say you, friends?
We have the rumblings of the mall here in Old Town. But friends, I warn you, if you destroy the tea, you may be subject to arrest. And your families and all who harbour you, subject to the harshest penalties of the law. Now let's disguise ourselves.
do that, Mr. Adams?
Let us use a symbol of all true sons and daughters of liberty. You need the American symbols of the economy and independence of the Mohawks. Take your feathers, raise them on high, and ride my Mohawks! Well, this means we do nothing more to save our country.
That's our signal, friends. Gather your belongings for we shall not be returning. 2 minutes more! Huzzah!
See you through your disguise, Mr. Tower.
Got my disguise.
Good to see you all. Mr. Pierce, always a pleasure.
Patriots, welcome aboard. I do take it by your presence here. You are here to destroy the tea, yes?
Yes!
To throw off these shackles of slavery, yes?
Yes!
And be arrested for treason, yes?
No.
There seems to be some confusion on this point. Let's settle the score on that first. What is the punishment for treason?
Death.
Death by hanging. Not a fate I wish for tonight. I like my neck the way it is. I see a couple of good necks out there. I think you all want to do the same. We have obstacles standing in the way of our safety, and not the least of which are 3 of His Majesty's warships. They're anchored in Boston Harbor not 500 yards away. With 106 cannons combined, there's very little that this merchant vessel with no cannon or any number of bats, clubs, hatchets, maybe a pistol or 2 that we have, can really do against that. I urge you, keep your weapons at bay. Maybe being peaceful is our greatest defense. Things have changed in Boston, especially since the massacre 3 years ago. Not even the Redcoats want to see a repeat of that night 100-fold here at Griffin's War. We must maintain that our membership tonight remains a secret to our dying day. Maybe a secret oath is definitely in order.
Couldn't agree more.
Raise your right hands. I swear!
I swear!
Never to tell!
Never to
tell!
That's it. Now let's destroy someone else's property.
Aye.
Patriots, I'm telling you to
2, 3!
Throw it over! Huzzah!
Oh, my goodness.
We're on board the Good Brig Beaver. By all accounts, the Beaver is a pretty standard merchant vessel of the era. But one thing is, there's a couple things that are rather unique about her that come to mind for me. One that immediately strikes me is her ownership. Because not only this vessel, but the Dartmouth as well. So 2 of the 3 vessels here at Griffin's Wharf carrying tea, they're owned by one family, the Roach family of Nantucket. You might recall the name Francis Roach. He was the one that went down to Milton earlier this morning to speak terms with our governor. And that's not entirely selfless. Every day that these ships are stuck here in Boston, they're hemorrhaging money like nothing else. And the Roach family stands to make a lot of it. They deal in the whaling industry, in whale's oil in particular, and that is the Beaver and Dartmouth have been primarily used for, transporting whale's oil, worth its weight in gold, across the Atlantic to the mother country. And that's exactly what happened a few months ago. The Beaver was loaded up, full to the brim, this entire cargo hold, with large, dark barrels like the ones you see along the midship. They are dark because they're covered in pine tar and linseed oil. It makes them watertight. So the ship is full to the brim with it, travels 4 to 6 weeks across the Atlantic, reaching London, where it'll pick up all sorts of finished and manufactured goods, and then come back to Boston. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks, though, a little bit longer because of the trade winds going against you going west along the Atlantic. But when she does arrive, well, the Beaver only arrived yesterday. She's the last ship to arrive here at Griffin's Wharf, so she's probably the one that has the most cargo still on board that is not tea. So we're going to be rummaging through a lot of textiles, fabrics, glassware, pottery, as well as furniture, darker barrels that are now filled with exotic goods like port or Madeira wine, lighter barrels carrying dry goods like spices and cotton from India perhaps, and honestly, my friends, we are here though for one thing and one thing alone, and that is the
Tea!
Yeah, the tea from China, and thankfully all of it, the tea crates, they're pretty easy to recognize. All of them are covered in a white canvas, and each of them is individually marked with a merchant's mark. It's essentially a company logo, if you will. On it are 4 letters, U-E-I-C, United East India Company. Pretty much spelled out for us. But that's where the easy part ends. Now we must get these tea crates above decks, and unfortunately the stairs don't exist. This is the main cargo hatch, so all cargo must be hauled up using block and tackle, ropes and pulleys. I need many of you to stay down below decks wrapping tea crates and ropes, while others are above hauling them up with the last of us having hatchets in our hands. ready to hack these tea crates open. We're going to rip off that white canvas, hack at the top layer of wood, and reveal a final layer of lead foil that all the loose leaf tea is wrapped in to keep it dry and preserved throughout its journey, and of course provide a very healthy lead taste. Now we dig our hands directly into the tea chest, grab that loose leaf tea densely packed within, and then chuck it into the water. We'll toss the tea crate in for good measure as well. But that's not our only concern. We should also be mindful of the crew and the captain. They are still on board tonight. Now over in the front or bow of the ship is the crew's quarters, the forecastle or forecastle, as I call it. There are 8 bunks there for a crew of, I've never seen really more than 8 to 10 sailors in the front of the vessel with a captain and a first mate sleeping in the back of the vessel. Now in the back, the captain's quarters, you will see Captain Hezekiah Coffin. Now he's going to stay in his quarters because he's actually begrudgingly agreed to our terms as long as we remain peaceful, don't harm him, the crew, any of the other cargo or the ship itself. But I'll admit, it's pretty easy to negotiate when you're dressed as Mohawks and you have hatchets in your hands. We have a lot of work ahead of us, friends, so let's get back to it. 5 minutes left on board the vessel. Use this time wisely. Continue documenting your treason, taking instant portraits. But above all, like Sarah above said, be curious and ask questions. Myself and her are happy to answer questions about tea.
Ask away, I'm sure he's ready.
That's the captain and the first mate's bunks. This ship is not big enough to carry something as large as a horse on board. Though you will be able to see on a ship this size things like chickens on board in the little chicken coop up above decks. And it wouldn't be surprising to see stumps.
See the chamber pot in the room for the captain and first mate?
Yeah, it's all the sides. Yeah.
Samuel what? Word.
That is the boom, or it's long name, it's a spank. We just call it boom. These are structured. They're attached directly. Green magnet is
Good job.
Trading, which eventually would grow.
Keep going.
I'm here. We're talking about the Anglican Church. And
Yay! You threw the tea. The tea shall not be around.
They're probably shared with the first mate. The first mate has a mantra.
Pull it overboard.
as far as like political groups and like a lot of like the radicals and
That's what it would have been really like. Imagine that pulling that out of the bottom of the ship.
Not board ship Eleanor. Now that we've destroyed the tea, she's being painted. I promise you will not give them. If you do think of any questions at all, please let me know. I'm more than happy to answer. No. I will be over here in the shade. If you want to hear me speak, if not, yes.
This is the Brig Beaver. It's the one we were able to go on. Hello, young lady. Yeah, because they didn't want to burn the whole boat.
Right.
Yeah, because in my mind, if they threw it overboard, the redcoats still could have rescued it.
Well, they opened the boxes.